How to make people fear disrespecting you. The journey towards commanding unwavering respect often begins with a critical self-assessment, a truth many overlook. The primary misstep nearly everyone makes is mistakenly believing that disrespect originates solely from someone else's hostile or dismissive attitude. This perception is fundamentally flawed. In reality, disrespect takes root the precise moment others discern that your personal standards and boundaries are, in fact, open to negotiation. Long before anyone dares to interrupt your thoughts, dismiss your insights, or treat you as utterly insignificant, they have already been meticulously observing you, gathering subtle cues. Human beings possess an innate ability to constantly interpret unspoken signals and non-verbal communication. They keenly note the behaviors you choose to tolerate, the transgressions you readily forgive, the excuses you frequently make for others, and, most tellingly, the desperate lengths to which you might go in your pursuit of their acceptance. The uncomfortable yet profound truth is this: individuals rarely challenge or disrespect genuine, authentic confidence from the outset. Instead, what they disrespect is a perceived permission. And this permission is frequently granted, often unconsciously, without a single word ever needing to be uttered. The renowned author Robert Greene consistently emphasizes a foundational principle throughout his influential works. True power is irrevocably rooted in perception. Before anyone even considers challenging your authority, they instinctively gauge your self-worth. They are evaluating your internal strength, not just your external facade. Self-respect, your most potent strategic defense. If others sense, even subtly, that your self-assurance is contingent upon their approval, they immediately recognize that they possess significant leverage over you. They understand that they hold a certain power to sway your emotions and decisions. However, a profound shift in the psychological dynamic occurs the moment they encounter an individual who intrinsically values themselves, someone whose self-worth remains steadfast regardless of any external validation or appraisal. Suddenly, disrespect becomes an incredibly risky endeavor for them, precisely because they no longer control the potential outcome. They lose their perceived advantage. This fundamental truth highlights why self-respect is far more than just a personal virtue. It is, in essence, a strategic weapon of formidable power. It silently, yet powerfully, communicates that there will be tangible consequences for anyone who dares to cross your clearly defined boundaries. These consequences are not born out of volatile anger, vindictive revenge, or petty retaliation. Rather, they emerge from your resolute willingness to calmly walk away, to deliberately withdraw your valuable attention, or even to remove your presence completely from situations or relationships that no longer serve you or honor your dignity. People possess a far greater fear of losing access to those who steadfastly refuse to tolerate disrespect than they do of confronting loud, aggressive displays of power or anger. Consider carefully the individuals who effortlessly command respect wherever they go. You will observe that they are not perpetually trying to prove their worth. They are not chasing after every fleeting form of recognition or accolade. They do not interrupt conversations merely to assert their presence or ensure they are noticed. In fact, these individuals often speak considerably less than everyone else in a room. Yet, when they do finally choose to speak, people stop and genuinely listen. Why? Because their entire demeanor and consistent behavior project an undeniable truth. My inherent value does not depend on your opinion, nor does it require your validation. This quiet, unwavering certainty generates a potent psychological pressure. Others become inherently cautious and thoughtful around such individuals, because they quickly realize that this person cannot be easily manipulated through the conventional tactics of seeking approval, inducing guilt, or applying intimidation. Now, contrast this with someone who is constantly, almost desperately, seeking acceptance from others. They might laugh uncomfortably at jokes made at their own expense. They frequently apologize for actions or situations that genuinely require no apology. They readily change their firmly held opinions simply to avoid even the slightest disagreement or conflict. they repeatedly ignore clear acts of disrespect because their fear of losing relationships, no matter how unhealthy, outweighs their desire for self-preservation. Initially, people might genuinely appreciate their accommodating nature and perceived kindness, but invariably, over time, that appreciation slowly erodes and transforms into a sense of familiarity. This familiarity then gradually morphs into entitlement, and entitlement, almost inevitably, culminates in outright disrespect. It is a harsh but consistent reality of human nature. People rarely protect or truly value that which comes effortlessly and without any conditions or boundaries. The unspoken power of firm boundaries. The uncomfortable reality we must confront is that every single time you permit someone to cross a boundary without a clear and appropriate response, you are, in effect, subtly redrawing that line further away, granting them more leeway. Human beings are inherently learning machines. They learn through observable patterns of behavior, not through empty promises or declarations. If your consistent actions repeatedly communicate to others that your stated boundaries are, in fact, flexible and negotiable, they will inevitably cease to treat those boundaries as genuine or unyielding. Before long, they will begin to test you in increasingly significant ways, not necessarily because they harbor animosity towards you, but simply because they have learned, through your past responses, that there is no meaningful or uncomfortable cost for doing so. This is precisely where many people make yet another critical mistake. They mistakenly believe that respect is earned by being constantly agreeable, by always seeking harmony and avoiding conflict. However, countless lessons from history, principles of effective leadership, and profound insights from psychology all reveal a different narrative. People may admire kindness and geniality, but they fundamentally respect unwavering standards. An individual devoid of clear, firm standards might be momentarily liked for their pleasant disposition, yet they are very rarely taken seriously or viewed as authoritative. The person who calmly and consistently protects their own dignity, even when doing so creates temporary discomfort or inconvenience for others, becomes truly unforgettable. They establish a reputation that precedes them, a silent but powerful narrative that travels ahead, informing others before any direct interaction. Others begin to think twice, exercising caution before even contemplating crossing someone who has unequivocally demonstrated that they will never compromise their deeply held self-respect for fleeting approval or temporary popularity. It's crucial to understand that genuine self-respect never needs to announce its presence loudly or aggressively. It doesn't rely on overt threats, dramatic emotional outbursts, or constant, tiresome reminders of one's status or position. Such behaviors are almost always indicators of underlying insecurity. True confidence, in its purest form, is quiet and self-assured, precisely because it has nothing whatsoever to prove to anyone. It inherently understands that the act of calmly walking away from disrespect is often far more impactful and powerful than engaging in a futile argument or attempting to win a confrontation. Silence, strategic, distance, and unwavering consistency become potent forms of strength that others find exceedingly difficult to challenge or overcome. The paradox here is beautifully simple. The less desperately you strive to seek or demand respect, the more naturally and effortlessly you will inevitably receive it. The very moment people grasp that your identity is not for sale, that your core principles are non-negotiable, and that your dignity cannot be bought or swayed with mere attention or superficial approval, they will fundamentally alter the way they interact with you. This shift occurs not because you have vociferously demanded their respect, but because they have come to understand at a deep level that disrespecting you will inevitably cost them access to someone who profoundly understands and values their own worth. Once you have meticulously established this unshakable foundation of self-respect, the next crucial step involves refining your communication to ensure that every word you utter carries sufficient weight, prompting people to pause and think twice before ever contemplating crossing you again. The subsequent challenge, after building such an unshakable self-respect, is ensuring that others recognize it without you ever needing to explicitly announce it. This is where most individuals falter significantly. They erroneously believe that authority emanates from speaking more, from meticulously explaining every single decision, or from winning every conceivable argument. However, in reality, the more desperately you strive to be understood, the less powerful you often appear to others. Every unnecessary explanation you provide inadvertently reveals something deeper and more concerning. It suggests, perhaps unconsciously, that you require other people's permission or validation to feel justified in your own actions or beliefs. The moment people sense this underlying need, they immediately realize they possess a certain degree of influence or sway over you. Truly powerful individuals intrinsically grasp a principle that countless others consistently overlook. Words hold their true value only when they are scarce and deliberately chosen. The person who speaks endlessly and voluminously inadvertently grants everyone unrestricted access to their innermost thoughts, their fluctuating emotions, and their precise intentions. In such cases, there is no longer any mystery left, no ambiguity, no intriguing uncertainty. And when people completely understand your every nuance, they also, by extension, learn how to predict your behavior with remarkable accuracy. Predictable people are, almost by definition, easy to manipulate. Others will know exactly which emotional buttons to press, which specific criticisms will most effectively provoke a reaction from you, and which particular compliments will effortlessly win your approval. Robert Greene frequently emphasizes that the deliberate cultivation of mystery is a potent source of power. The less others genuinely know about your inner world, your true motivations, and your emotional landscape, the more carefully and considerately they must approach you. Human beings are naturally inclined to fear and respect that which they cannot fully predict or comprehend. This is precisely why the quiet, observant person in a room frequently attracts far more genuine attention and curiosity than the loudest, most boisterous individual. While everyone else is fiercely competing to be heard, the silent observer is diligently gathering invaluable information. They are discerning personalities, identifying weaknesses, recognizing ambitions, and observing emotions unfold, all without ever revealing their own strategic hand. In every social interaction, information is a critical form of power. The one who reveals less almost invariably possesses more. The weight of words, why speaking less commands more. Consider for a moment someone who feels an immediate, overwhelming urge to defend themselves every time they are criticized. Before the critic even finishes articulating their point, this individual begins to elaborate on their intentions, compile a list of excuses, and fervently attempt to prove they were simply misunderstood. Their words might be perfectly logical, rational, and well-reasoned, yet, from a psychological perspective, they communicate an underlying insecurity. They effectively tell others, "Your opinion holds enough sway over me that I feel compelled to convince you of my rectitude." Now, contrast this behavior with someone who listens calmly, absorbs the criticism without interruption, responds only if absolutely necessary, and steadfastly refuses to justify every single decision they make. Their deliberate silence, in this scenario, creates a potent sense of uncertainty in the mind of the critic. People then begin questioning themselves instead, wondering whether their criticism had any genuine effect at all, or if they perhaps misjudged the situation. This subtle, unaddressed uncertainty quietly, yet profoundly, shifts the balance of power in the interaction. This approach does not advocate for becoming cold, aloof, or refusing to communicate altogether. Instead, it means becoming profoundly intentional with every utterance. Every sentence you construct should serve a clear purpose. Every opinion you voice should genuinely add value to the conversation. People naturally gravitate towards and respect those whose words carry significant weight because they understand that such words are never idly or wastefully spoken. Envision two leaders entering a crucial meeting. One leader dominates every conversation, constantly interrupts others, and speaks merely to fill any silence. The other leader listens intently, allows everyone else ample opportunity to reveal their thoughts and perspectives, and then, only after careful consideration, offers a few precise, insightful observations. Which one, in your estimation, leaves the stronger, more lasting impression? More often than not, it is the second leader. Their deliberate restraint cultivates an aura of authority because people instinctively associate control over one's speech with a profound control over one's emotions and internal state. Silence also acts as a powerful shield, protecting you from one of the most significant dangers inherent in human interaction: prematurely revealing your weaknesses. Every unnecessary complaint, every impulsive emotional reaction, or every ill-timed, unguarded confession furnishes others with valuable information that they may, consciously or unconsciously, eventually utilize against you. While not everyone harbors malicious intentions, human nature possesses an uncanny ability to recall and exploit vulnerability. In moments of competition, conflict, or profound disagreement, people will frequently reach for any available knowledge that grants them an advantage. The less ammunition you willingly provide, the more formidable and challenging you become to oppose or undermine. Furthermore, silence generates another compelling psychological effect. It compels others to fill the empty space. Most people find prolonged silence inherently uncomfortable, prompting them to start talking, often impulsively. In doing so, they inadvertently reveal intimate secrets, deeply held opinions, hidden fears, and true motivations without even fully realizing it. While they are unwittingly exposing themselves, you remain composed and observant, diligently collecting invaluable insights. Over time, this consistent habit allows you to understand people far more profoundly than they will ever understand you. This asymmetry of knowledge naturally commands a deep and abiding respect. Remember, speaking less is not synonymous with thinking less. On the contrary, it signifies a conscious choice to replace impulsive, knee-jerk reactions with deliberate, well-considered responses. It means prioritizing genuine influence over superficial attention, strategic thinking over raw emotion, and a profound, impactful presence over mere noise. When every word you articulate is carefully measured and purposeful, people cease listening for sheer quantity and instead begin listening intently for genuine significance. Eventually, they will come to realize that if you have made the conscious decision to say something, it is, in all likelihood, something profoundly worth hearing. Once your words begin to carry that level of profound weight, the next crucial step is ensuring that your boundaries become absolutely impossible for anyone to ignore. Speaking less effectively imbues your words with greater value. But words alone are never sufficient to establish lasting authority. If people discover that your stated limits exist merely in conversation and are not consistently upheld through your actions, they will, in due course, cease to take both your words and your strategic silence seriously. This is precisely why boundaries represent the true test of authority and genuine power. They unequivocally differentiate individuals who merely ask for respect from those who effortlessly command it through their consistent conduct. Every boundary you meticulously set sends a clear message, but every boundary you fail to consistently enforce sends an even louder, more detrimental one. Human nature is keenly attuned to actions, not mere declarations or empty promises. If your observable behavior contradicts your articulated standards, people will invariably believe your behavior above anything you claim to uphold. One of the greatest and most pervasive illusions is the belief that disrespect manifests abruptly and all at once. This is rarely the case. Disrespect typically commences with something seemingly trivial and insignificant. It could be a sarcastic remark that goes unchallenged and unanswered, a promise that is repeatedly made and then broken, someone consistently interrupting you without consequence, a friend who contacts you exclusively when they require a favor, or a colleague who brazenly takes credit for your hard work. These individual moments may appear minor and inconsequential in isolation, but human psychology operates through the power of patterns. When people successfully cross a small, seemingly insignificant line without experiencing any adverse consequence, their curiosity is piqued, and they become inclined to test where the next line might be drawn. Every successful test, no matter how minor, actively encourages another, more audacious one. Over time, what began as a relatively minor act of disrespect gradually escalates and becomes an ingrained habit, solely because you have, perhaps unknowingly, taught them that your boundaries are, in fact, entirely optional. Robert Greene frequently elucidates how true power is meticulously established and fortified through unwavering consistency. People quickly discern who among their acquaintances can be pressured or swayed and who cannot. They observe whether your stated principles and standards fluctuate or remain constant, depending on who happens to be standing in front of you at any given moment. If you only demonstrate firmness when it is convenient or comfortable for you, your boundaries rapidly lose all credibility and persuasive force. However, when your standards remain immutably the same, Irrespective of someone's social status, popularity, or the prevailing circumstances, people naturally begin to adjust their behavior and expectations even before they directly interact with you. Your established reputation, at this point, begins to perform the crucial work that your words no longer need to explicitly articulate. The unshakable calm, mastering your emotional responses. Many individuals harbor a deep-seated fear of establishing firm boundaries because they are concerned that others will subsequently dislike them or perceive them negatively. Yet, this very fear creates an even more profound and debilitating problem. The innate desire to be universally liked often, paradoxically, becomes an open invitation for others to exploit and use you. The more you prioritize the comfort and contentment of everyone else around you, the more uncomfortable, strained, and unsatisfactory your own life inevitably becomes. Eventually, you may discover yourself surrounded by individuals who, while respecting your utility and what you can do for them, harbor no genuine respect for your intrinsic value as a person. They may appreciate the services or favors you provide, yet they never hesitate to transgress your limits because they have, through repeated observation, learned that your need for their approval is fundamentally stronger than your commitment to your own well-being and self-respect. The most formidable, effective boundaries are not emotionally charged or volatile. On the contrary, they are characterized by their calm, predictable, and unwavering consistency. Imagine for a moment someone who repeatedly addresses you with overt disrespect. The average person might react with immediate anger, engage in a heated argument, and perhaps even threaten consequences that they ultimately never enforce. The truly powerful individual, however, employs a different, more strategic approach. They remain impeccably composed. They do not raise their voice in a fit of rage, nor do they actively seek revenge. Instead, they quietly and deliberately alter their own behavior. They reduce access to themselves. They cease to offer unnecessary attention or engagement. If the disrespect persists despite these changes, they remove themselves from the situation entirely and decisively. This measured, consequence-driven response generates a far greater psychological impact because it irrefutably demonstrates that your standards are not merely words, but real, actionable principles. There is no histrionics or emotional drama, only the calm, inevitable implementation of consequences. People often misinterpret this composed demeanor as being cold or detached, but it is in fact a profound and active form of self-respect. You are not primarily punishing others, you are proactively protecting your own dignity and peace of mind. There exists an important distinction here. Punishment is typically fueled by raw emotion and a desire for retribution, whereas boundaries are steadfastly driven by clear, rational principles. The precise moment people realize that your decisions and reactions are consistently guided by deeply held principles rather than fleeting, temporary emotions, they begin to approach every interaction with you with far greater seriousness and consideration. Another compelling reason why firm boundaries command such profound respect is that they effectively eliminate ambiguity and uncertainty. People know precisely where they stand with you. They understand unequivocally that honesty and integrity are rewarded, manipulative behaviors are systematically ignored, and repeated acts of disrespect will inevitably lead to distance and disconnection. This unwavering consistency, surprisingly, cultivates a deep sense of trust, even among those who might fundamentally disagree with your views. Ironically, people often harbor greater respect for someone with firm, unyielding boundaries than for an individual who constantly attempts to please everyone. Why? Because predictable strength and unwavering resolve feel inherently safer and more reliable than unpredictable weakness and wavering appeasement. There is also a subtle yet potent hidden psychological effect at play. When someone loses access to your precious time, your focused attention, or your very presence because they deliberately crossed a line, they begin to unconsciously associate disrespect with a tangible loss. That experiential lesson is far more powerful and enduring than any lengthy lecture or heated argument could ever be. Human beings possess an incredible capacity to remember consequences far longer, more vividly than they recall mere conversations. Once that indelible association is formed, disrespect equals loss, they naturally become significantly more careful and circumspect in all future interactions with you. Never forget that every relationship, whether personal or professional, is a dynamic learning environment that teaches people precisely how to treat you. Every compromise you make, every reaction you display, and every decision you undertake becomes an integral part of that ongoing lesson. If your boundaries visibly crumble under pressure, your authority will inevitably dissipate along with them. But if your standards remain firm and unyielding, even when rigorously tested, people will swiftly realize that disrespecting you is simply not worth the significant cost. Once your boundaries become truly impossible to ignore, the next crucial level of power emerges from your ability to master your own emotions, particularly when others deliberately attempt to provoke you. By this stage, you will have meticulously built unwavering self-respect, honed your ability to speak with profound intention, and established boundaries that others can no longer disregard. Yet, there remains one final, ultimate test that determines whether all of that cultivated power is truly real or merely an elaborate illusion. This test manifests itself in those precise moments when someone intentionally tries to provoke a reaction from you. They might criticize you publicly, subtly question your authority, or outright insult you, all with the explicit hope of ensnaring you into an emotional outburst. In that critical moment, your greatest adversary is not the person directly confronting you. It is your own internal emotions. The individual who can effectively control your emotions ultimately controls you. And the very moment someone can accurately predict your emotional reactions, they gain the insidious ability to manipulate your behavior. This truth constitutes one of the most ancient and enduring principles of power. People frequently equate strength with the capacity to dominate others, but true, authentic strength lies in the profound ability to dominate oneself. Robert Greene consistently emphasizes that emotional reactions inevitably cloud judgment. Intense anger, overwhelming frustration, and wounded pride create significant blind spots that intelligent adversaries can effortlessly exploit to their advantage. The individual who remains perfectly calm and composed while everyone else around them loses control quietly gains a decisive advantage because they continue to think strategically while others are merely reacting impulsively. Consider how easily people can expose your vulnerabilities if they possess precise knowledge of what exactly triggers you. If a single insult is sufficient to cause you to completely lose your composure, they have, in effect, discovered a significant weakness. They no longer require elaborate intelligence or complex strategy. They simply need to repeatedly press that same trigger whenever they wish to distract, undermine, or control you. Every emotional outburst you display becomes undeniable evidence that your behavior can be controlled from external forces, rather than being deliberately directed from within your own will. This is why truly powerful individuals very rarely react immediately or impulsively. They possess a profound understanding that every emotional response, no matter how subtle, reveals valuable, exploitable information. Anger often exposes underlying insecurities. Defensiveness betrays hidden fears. Desperation clearly reveals your dependence on external approval. Even excessive excitement can inadvertently reveal your true intentions prematurely, long before the opportune moment. The calmer and more collected you remain, the less compromising information you inadvertently give away to others. Silence in these moments acts as a protective shield for your strategic intentions, whereas unbridled emotional reactions serve only to expose them. The indispensable presence, cultivating true value. Imagine two distinct individuals facing the exact same provoking insult. The first individual immediately launches into an argument, raises their voice aggressively, and spends the next several minutes vehemently attempting to prove the other person wrong. Everyone observing this exchange might remember the argument itself, but they will also distinctly remember who ultimately lost control of their emotions. The second individual, conversely, listens calmly without interruption, pauses thoughtfully, and then either responds with a few carefully chosen, calm words, or, perhaps even more powerfully, chooses not to respond at all. That deliberate silence in this context creates an undeniable discomfort in the air. Suddenly, the focus of attention dramatically shifts away from the original insult and squarely onto the person who steadfastly refused to be emotionally shaken or provoked. Instead of appearing weak or vulnerable, they project an aura of being impossible to manipulate. This approach does not advocate for suppressing your emotions or pretending they simply do not exist. Every human being naturally experiences anger, disappointment, and frustration. The crucial difference lies in what transpires between the initial feeling and the subsequent action. Powerful individuals deliberately create a conscious space between these 2 points. They allow their emotions to fully settle and dissipate before making any decisions or taking any actions. That brief, deliberate pause often prevents grievous mistakes that more emotional individuals might spend years desperately trying to repair. There is yet another profound psychological reason why emotional control commands such deep and consistent respect. Most people operate on the expectation of predictable reactions. They anticipate anger after an insult, panic when under intense pressure, or fear when directly challenged. When you deliberately refuse to react in the expected, conventional way, you introduce a potent element of uncertainty into the interaction. This uncertainty makes people inherently cautious and hesitant. They begin to wonder what you are truly thinking, what your next strategic move might be, and whether provoking you in the first place was, in fact, a grave miscalculation. That very uncertainty in itself can effectively discourage future acts of disrespect because people will hesitate to challenge someone they cannot emotionally read or predict. History consistently demonstrates that great leaders, astute negotiators, and profoundly influential individuals universally share this singular quality. They categorically refuse to allow temporary, fleeting emotions to dictate permanent, consequential decisions. They understand at a fundamental level that every emotional explosion or outburst squanders a measure of power that may never be fully recovered. Remaining composed and unruffled is not a passive act. It is unequivocally a strategic one. It empowers you to consciously choose your response rather than allowing someone else's provocation to choose it for you. Perhaps the most significant advantage of emotional discipline is its unparalleled ability to safeguard your reputation. People may eventually forget the specifics of arguments or conflicts, but they rarely, if ever, forget a person's unwavering composure under duress. Over time, others will begin to associate you with stability, profound confidence, and exemplary self-control. They will come to realize that intimidation tactics, personal insults, and manipulative ploys simply do not work on you. Once that formidable reputation is firmly established, many potential conflicts will simply dissipate before they even have a chance to begin, because people instinctively seek out easier targets. Ultimately, people do not truly fear the loudest, most aggressive person in the room. They fear the individual who cannot be emotionally controlled or rattled. When others realize they cannot provoke you into making costly mistakes, they are effectively disarmed of one of their most powerful weapons. Once your emotions are thoroughly under your control, the next transformative step is to become so genuinely valuable that people fear losing your presence far more than they would ever consider disrespecting you. Once you achieve this state of emotional unshakability, you reach a plateau where arguments and confrontations no longer define or diminish your power. However, there is an even deeper level of influence that compels people to think not just twice, but repeatedly before ever showing you disrespect. It is not merely your carefully chosen words. It is not your controlled temper. It is your inherent value. Human nature operates on a remarkably simple yet powerful principle. People zealously protect what they genuinely fear losing. If your presence is commonplace, your attention is perpetually unlimited, and your time is readily available to anyone at any moment, people will, slowly but surely, begin to take you for granted. Familiarity, when unaccompanied by perceived value, inevitably breeds indifference, and indifference is all too often the insidious precursor to outright disrespect. This is precisely why truly powerful individuals never make themselves endlessly or indiscriminately available. They understand that their attention, their focus, and their time are among the most valuable resources they possess. Every minute you carelessly give away sends a subtle but potent message to others that your time, and by extension yourself, has little intrinsic worth. Robert Greene frequently illustrates that scarcity intrinsically increases perceived value. Throughout the annals of history, that which is rare and exclusive has consistently been regarded as far more precious and desirable than that which is ordinary and abundant. The same fundamental principle applies directly to human behavior and interaction. The person who is constantly present and readily available is often overlooked or undervalued, while the individual whose presence must be genuinely earned and appreciated naturally commands significantly greater respect. Many people fall into the trap of believing that being constantly available makes them more important or indispensable. They meticulously answer every message immediately, often cancel their own critical priorities for the sake of others, and remain accessible regardless of how they are treated. Initially, this behavior might appear generous and altruistic, but over time, people inevitably begin to expect it as a right rather than appreciate it as a kindness. What was once perceived as an act of thoughtful generosity slowly devolves into a perceived obligation. The moment you fail to meet that newly established expectation, the very same individuals who previously benefited from your boundless availability may become frustrated or even indignant, not because you did anything wrong, but simply because they had grown accustomed to unlimited, unconditional access. Observe closely the individuals who wield genuine influence in any environment, whether professional or personal. They are not impossible to reach because they are arrogant or aloof. They are profoundly selective because they deeply understand the immense value of focused energy and strategic attention. Their attention is meticulously invested precisely where it matters most, where it can yield the greatest impact. They fiercely protect their vital energy from unnecessary distractions and drain. This discerning selectiveness creates an invisible yet powerful psychological effect. Others begin to genuinely value every interaction they have with such an individual because they instinctively know that it is not freely or cheaply given. Respect flourishes and grows when access must be consciously earned rather than merely assumed. However, becoming truly valuable encompasses far more than simply limiting your availability. The greatest, most sustainable source of value stems from continuous, relentless personal growth and development. Essential skills, profound knowledge, unwavering discipline, genuine confidence, and steadfast reliability are all invaluable assets that cannot be easily replaced or replicated. When you consistently and actively strive to improve yourself, you become increasingly difficult to ignore or dismiss. People may readily disrespect empty titles or fleeting temporary success, but they will invariably hesitate, even unconsciously, to disrespect genuine competence and mastery. Deep down, they intuitively understand that someone who consistently creates tangible value and demonstrably possesses a high level of skill inherently possesses options and agency. And individuals with genuine options are never easily controlled or manipulated. This is precisely why chasing external attention is such a perilous and self-defeating habit. Attention can be freely given today and just as easily withdrawn tomorrow. Real intrinsic value, however, is fundamentally different. It exists independently, whether people acknowledge or recognize it or not. If your confidence is precariously dependent on fleeting applause, superficial compliments, or fickle social approval, your personal power will inevitably vanish the moment those external affirmations disappear. But when your confidence originates from your inherent abilities, your cultivated skills, and your unshakable character, outside opinions lose their power to define or diminish you. Others instinctively sense that profound independence, and it immediately transforms the way they interact with you, fostering a respect that transcends superficiality. The unseen force, building an unshakable reputation. Another profoundly powerful lesson involves cultivating the courage to calmly walk away from situations, be they unhealthy friendships, unfulfilling workplaces, or toxic relationships that no longer genuinely respect your intrinsic value. Many individuals remain trapped in such detrimental circumstances simply because they harbor an overwhelming fear of being alone or facing an unknown future. That debilitating fear significantly weakens their bargaining position and their overall stance. When others realize that you believe you genuinely have nowhere else to go, They understand that you are highly unlikely to leave, regardless of how poorly or disrespectfully you are treated. However, the instant they grasp that you are fully prepared to disengage and walk away rather than accept continued disrespect, the balance of power shifts dramatically and irrevocably. Suddenly, they become the ones gripped by the worry of losing something genuinely valuable: your presence, your contributions, your unique self. It is vital to recognize that none of these principles require manipulative tactics or an arrogant demeanor. It is not about pretending to be unavailable or feigning superiority. Instead, it is about assiduously building a life so rich, so meaningful, and so aligned with your core values that you are no longer desperately yearning for anyone else's validation or approval. Your purpose, your unwavering discipline, and your carefully defined standards become infinitely more important than any temporary or superficial approval from others. Ironically, the less desperately you seek people's attention, the more attention they willingly and genuinely bestow upon you. The individuals who are most universally respected are rarely those who vociferously demand importance or constantly seek the spotlight. They are, instead, the ones whose absence is profoundly felt the very moment they depart. Their inherent value speaks volumes long before they ever utter a word, and their presence is deeply appreciated precisely because it is never wasted or taken for granted. When people realize they risk losing access to someone who genuinely enriches their lives and elevates their experiences, disrespect becomes a prohibitive risk they are simply no longer willing to take. After meticulously building this kind of undeniable value, the final, culminating step is to ensure that your consistent actions forge a reputation so robust and so unassailable that people will think not just twice, but thrice, before ever daring to test your character. By this pivotal point, you will have profoundly understood that true respect originates within yourself, meticulously grows through disciplined and intentional speech, is vigilantly protected by firm and unwavering boundaries, significantly strengthened by impeccable emotional control, and powerfully reinforced by becoming an individual of genuine, undeniable value. However, none of these invaluable principles will truly matter or yield lasting results if they remain merely abstract ideas rather than becoming ingrained, automatic habits. In the final analysis, people do not ultimately judge you by what you claim to believe or what noble intentions you declare. They judge you, unequivocally, by what you repeatedly and consistently do. Your reputation is not sculpted by your fleeting intentions. It is forged, day by day, by your concrete actions. And once a formidable reputation is firmly established, it begins to communicate its powerful message long before you even step foot into a room. Robert Greene often delves into one timeless and immutable reality of power. People inherently trust observable patterns of behavior far more than they trust empty promises or grand declarations. Anyone can confidently claim to possess confidence. Anyone can assert that they deserve respect. Anyone can eloquently speak about loyalty, discipline, or strength. But mere words dissolve into insignificance the moment reality starkly contradicts them. If someone consistently observes you compromising your standards under pressure, your reputation will irrevocably shift and diminish. Conversely, if they consistently witness you steadfastly upholding your principles, even when it demands a personal cost, your reputation will transform in an entirely different, highly positive direction. Over time, people will cease to question who you truly are, because your unwavering actions will have already provided all the compelling answers. This is precisely why consistency stands as one of the most profoundly underestimated forms of power. Most individuals are predictable only in their inherent inconsistency. They appear confident and self-assured when everything is proceeding smoothly, yet they become insecure and hesitant when directly challenged. They enforce boundaries with certain individuals, but inexplicably ignore overt disrespect from others. They eloquently espouse the virtues of discipline while repeatedly breaking promises they make to themselves. This pervasive inconsistency breeds doubt, and wherever doubt festers, respect inevitably begins to erode and fade. People naturally feel compelled to test individuals whose behavior demonstrably shifts according to their convenience, because they intuitively sense an underlying uncertainty, lack of conviction beneath the surface. Now, envision an individual who behaves in a fundamentally different manner. Their standards remain immutably the same, regardless of who they are interacting with. They are consistently respectful without ever becoming submissive or subservient. They maintain a profound calm without ever becoming passive or inactive. They exude genuine confidence without ever actively seeking external attention or validation. They meticulously keep their word, even in situations where no one else is observing or holding them accountable. Day after day, their consistent actions powerfully reinforce the very same clear and unwavering message. Eventually, something truly remarkable and transformative occurs. People cease to test them altogether. This cessation happens because accumulated experience has already taught them, beyond a shadow of a doubt, what the predictable outcome will inevitably be. Their hard-earned reputation becomes a silent yet potent warning that disrespect will simply never be tolerated or rewarded. The legacy of character, earning inherent respect. One of the greatest and most pervasive errors people commit is attempting to protect their superficial image instead of meticulously building their intrinsic character. An image is a fragile construct, entirely dependent on what people momentarily think of you today. Character, however, fundamentally determines what they will think of you tomorrow and for years to come. You can expend countless years meticulously managing appearances and crafting an external facade, but a single moment of weak or compromised character can utterly shatter that painstakingly built illusion. Real influence, genuine and enduring, is constructed in a far different manner. It emerges from making hundreds, even thousands, of small, deliberate decisions that are consistently aligned with your deeply held values, until those decisions coalesce and ultimately become your undeniable identity. At that transformative point, respect is no longer something you are compelled to ask for or demand. It becomes something that people naturally, almost instinctively, associate with your very name. There is also a profoundly powerful psychological principle underpinning the enduring impact of reputation. Human beings inherently rely on their past experiences to accurately predict future behavior. If someone has consistently demonstrated unwavering confidence, rigorous discipline, and unimpeachable integrity over time, people will naturally expect those stellar qualities to persist. They will hesitate significantly before acting disrespectfully because previous interactions have already unequivocally taught them that there will be clear, tangible consequences. These are not dramatic, anger-driven consequences, but rather calm, predictable outcomes meticulously driven by principle and conviction. That deeply ingrained expectation fundamentally alters behavior even before any potential conflict has a chance to fully ignite. This is precisely why the strongest and most respected individuals rarely, if ever, feel the need to defend themselves vocally. Their meticulously cultivated reputation accomplishes that formidable task for them. Others have already borne witness to how they comport themselves and respond under immense pressure. They have observed them calmly walking away from manipulation, steadfastly refusing to tolerate disrespect, and maintaining impeccable composure in the face of even the most challenging situations. Those indelible memories become an intrinsic part of their identity in the minds of others. Over time, people invariably begin to treat them with greater care, consideration, and deference, not because they are feared in a traditional aggressive sense, but because their unassailable character has proven, time and again, that crossing them is simply not a worthwhile endeavor. Remember, every single conversation you engage in, every decision you make, and every challenge you face contributes irrevocably to the ongoing story that people narrate about you when you are not physically present. You may never directly hear those whispered conversations, but they profoundly shape your future opportunities, influence the quality of your relationships, and ultimately determine the precise level of respect you will receive in life. That is why every single action you take truly matters. Every promise you meticulously keep strengthens the fabric of your reputation. Every standard you vigilantly protect reinforces your inherent authority. Every moment of self-discipline you exercise adds another indelible layer to the powerful, enduring image that others carry in their minds about you. In the final summation, the objective of making people fear disrespecting you is never about intimidation, aggression, or coercing others into unwilling submission. It is, instead, about the profound and continuous process of becoming the kind of person whose self-respect is absolutely unwavering, whose carefully chosen words consistently carry significant weight, whose boundaries are consistently upheld and respected, whose emotions remain perpetually under impeccable control, whose intrinsic value is utterly undeniable, and whose consistent actions build an unassailable reputation that speaks with far greater authority and resonance than any argument or declaration ever could. Once you achieve that elevated point of profound personal mastery, respect is no longer a fleeting pursuit you chase. It transforms into an inherent quality that people willingly and consciously choose to bestow upon you, precisely because they understand that your formidable character leaves them with no other rational reason to do otherwise.